Herman Lamm, the military mind behind million-dollar heists. A failed soldier became a master criminal. Military is supposed to protect a country and the people who live in it. Have you ever thought what would happen if a military man, trained in precision and strategy, decided to turn his skills to the dark side? This is Robber's Insights, and today we dive into the mind of a criminal mastermind who transformed bank robbery from a messed-up gamble to a well-planned operation. His name? Herman Karl Lamm, the man who turned bank heists into an art form. In the late 19th and early 20th century, the banking sector witnessed lots of heists and robberies. But with each passing year, the safety measures were being advanced. The banks successfully adopted preventive measures to reduce any chances of burglaries, and most of the robbers began to fail in their attempt to pull a heist. However, the change came after a former military soldier ended up in the world of crime and revolutionized the way of bank robberies by introducing thorough planning and attention to detail. From developing comprehensive maps to practice sessions and sealing identities, he successfully managed to steal around $1 million in the early 20th century. Herman Karl Lamm, often regarded as Baron Lamm, was a former army soldier for Prussia, who eventually migrated to the United States in the early 1900s for better life prospects. After he arrived in the United States, Lamm quickly found himself involved in a life of crime, with a particular focus on bank robbers. Lamm gained a notorious fame, particularly specializing in bank robberies. His criminal activities were characterized by meticulous planning and precision, which earned him a reputation as one of the most skilled bank robbers of his time. But why would a military man end up in the world of crime after being professionally trained and serving in various other sectors during World War I? Lamm had joined the Prussian army as his full-time career. However, he was cashiered by his regiment after he was caught cheating at cards. When the Prussian army discredited him, Lamm soon found himself emigrating to the United States before the beginning of World War I in the year 1914. Once he moved to the United States, Lamm started to implement his military training towards his criminal side. He began to study tactics and calculations to improve his precision and accuracy as a criminal. Lamm fundamentally believed that a bank heist was similar to a military operation. Just as a military operation required backup plans, a heist also needed a plan B in case of any possible unforeseen issues. At that time in the United States, most bank robbers acted without careful planning. As a result, their heists mostly ended in either varying degrees of success or complete failure. Many robbers in that era were eventually caught and sent to jail. Observing the situation with a keen eye, Lamm believed that detailed planning and attention were most essential for successful heists. In 1917, after a failed robbery attempt, Lamm was arrested and briefly imprisoned in Utah. During this time, Lamm developed a technique later known as the Lamm technique. This method involved thoroughly studying a target bank for hours before the heist, creating detailed floor plans, noting safe locations, and planning escape routes. Occasionally, a gang member would pose as a journalist to gain insights into the bank's operations. Lamm assigned specific roles to his gang members, such as lookout, getaway driver, lobbyman, and vaultman, each with designated areas to monitor and a strict timeline to follow. He also organized rehearsals, sometimes using a full-scale model of the bank's interior. Lamm emphasized the importance of timing during these drills, using stopwatches to ensure precision. He enforced a rule that gang members had to leave the bank within a set time frame, regardless of the amount of money they could steal. Lamm is also known for creating the first comprehensive bank robbery getaway maps, which he termed GITs. After selecting a particular bank to rob, Lamm would map out nearby back roads for escape, known as cat roads, with precision down to 1/10 of a mile. This precision in maps was unusual for the robbers at the time, a technique that allowed the robbers to successfully escape without any surprises. Lamm cleverly and carefully planned each robbery's escape. He took nondescript cars with high-powered engines and often recruited drivers previously experienced in auto racing. Often, he would physically attach a chart to the dashboard. These charts would include a detailed explanation of escape routes, alternative paths, and speedometer readings. Before a heist took place, Lamm would conduct practice sessions to improve precision and accuracy. Lamm and his driver would practice the routes selected for escape, timing them to the second under various weather conditions that could occur on the day of the heist. This thorough preparation allowed Lamm's gang to successfully rob dozens of banks from the end of World War I to 1930 and steal over $1 million. They were regarded as the most efficient bank robbery gang of their time. At this point, you might think his military experience came in quite handy for him to pull off successful heists and result in continuous success. Well, in truth, that was not the case. Lamm improvised his techniques with time after encountering various experiences. It turns out he was arrested multiple times throughout his career. Despite this cunning detailing, Lamm had multiple encounters with law enforcement agencies. They would intend to capture Lamm, who would escape by showing various identities. In February 1927, Lamm was arrested by the police alongside an accomplice. They would reveal their criminal history under different names to shadow their real self for protection. He was also once previously caught in December 1914 in the state of San Francisco during a bank robbery. There, his real identity was revealed, but he managed to escape and survive. Within a few years, in June 1918, he was arrested again in Superior, Wisconsin, on suspicion of involvement in a holdup, but was released after no connection was found. In the following month of July 1918, Lamm was arrested in Kansas City, Missouri, under the shadow name of Harry K. Lamm. And once again in St. Joseph, Missouri in December 1920, he was arrested under a different name of Thomas Bell for the case of burglary. In another case during May 1929, Lamm was arrested in Benton, Illinois, and was linked to the robbery of the Northwestern National Bank in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. With this strategy, he remained in the shadows with this final nickname until his death in 1930. But how did he die? That is a story in itself. It's fascinating how Lamm managed to escape each time. But the law enforcement agencies had drawn all attention to Lamm and his gang across the United States. The banks were now far more cautious, and the police were on alert. On the night of December 16, 1930, Lamm passed away after committing a botched bank robbery in Clinton, Indiana. In the heist, he stole almost $15,567 from the Citizen State Bank. However, while they were driving away, a gateway driver and an ex-rum runner, W.H. Hunter, noticed a local barber approaching their car with a shotgun in his hand. The driver immediately panicked and pulled a sharp U-turn, causing the Buick sedan to blow up a tire after jumping a curb. Lamm and his men seized a second car but were eventually forced to abandon it after realizing that the car could not go more than 35 miles per hour or 56 kilometers per hour since it was fitted with a governor. Turns out, this measure was taken by the car's owner to avoid reckless driving by his elderly father. Lamm and his gang seized a third vehicle, a truck this time, but the series of unfortunate events continued, and the truck had very little water in the radiator. They abandoned the car once again and seized a fourth vehicle. This car, however, only had 1 gallon of gas in the tank. The gang was soon cornered near Slidell, Illinois, by a massive law enforcement team with nearly 200 soldiers and armed citizens. This led to a massive skirmish between them, where Hunter was severely wounded and later lost his life. Lamm and another gang member, a 71-year-old G.W. Dad Landy, took their own life. They chose death over handing themselves to the police and committed suicide right there and then by pulling the trigger aimed at their heads. 2 of the gang members that managed to survive, Walter Dietrich and James Oklahoma Jack Clark, were captured by the police, and the court eventually passed orders for their punishment, as they were sentenced to life in an Indiana state prison. Despite Lamm's death in a strange manner, his legacy continued for the upcoming burglars. He was later cherished for his genius during his bank robberies. Lamm remained publicly famous for being one of the most brilliant and efficient bank robbers that the world has ever witnessed to this day. He is often described as the father of modern bank robbery. Since he died in 1930, the technique known as the Lamm technique has been widely imitated by various bank robbers throughout the country. John Dillinger, a notorious bank robber, studied the techniques developed by Lamm related to the bank robbing system and claims to have used them widely for carrying out heists throughout his criminal career. The survivors of the Lamm's gang, Clark and Dietrich, met Dillinger during their time in the Indiana State Prison. Dillinger allowed them to join his gang on the condition that they must teach him everything they have learned from Lamm regarding the bank robbery system. Lamm's genius is worth appreciating. Despite his involvement in robberies, his meticulous process and attention to detail revolutionized the techniques implemented during heists. However, this poses a question. If people with strong natural intuition and intelligence fail to make into the right segments of the society, they will capitalize on the other side. Is it the failure of society for not catering to them, or a naturally occurring phenomenon in the grand scheme of things? Comment below and let us know your opinion. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel and hit the bell button so you never miss out on our video. And until next time, stay curious.